Hi, my name is Ferris from UT San Antonio. I wanted to ask, what do you think about all the money managers and Wall Street investment bankers coming down from New York to Texas and Florida? Like Griffin runs like Citadel, and he's moving to Miami. So what do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think that Florida and other states have to be careful. I mean, it's going to result in Ken Griffin is a conservative, so that's one example. But most of those guys in that community is not. Like Goldman Sachs is moving, right? For example, I don't celebrate it. I don't. I mean, Florida is not desiring for more economic growth right now, but Florida has managed it because of leadership. Right? Florida just signed in a 6-week abortion ban. Florida has said that Disney no longer gets special tax privileges, and that's being disputed in court. Florida is leading the way on a lot of this stuff. And now you have left-wing companies saying, I would never want to move to Florida. That's a good thing, actually. Okay? And there's nothing the left does that we cannot also do, right? Now, this is important, is that the left is really good. They're like parasites. They're good at taking over things. We're much better at starting things. So let's have a revival of entrepreneurship, right? This is why I can't stand this whole idea of sending kids to go to college. If you want to kill the entrepreneurial spirit, send a kid to go to college, right? It absolutely destroys the entrepreneurial potential, in my opinion. I always laugh when someone says, I ask, what are you studying? They say, I'm studying entrepreneurship. I said, you don't study entrepreneurship, you do entrepreneurship. No offense if anyone's studying entrepreneurship, but you do it, you take a risk, you get into the market. So I'm generally not a fan of left-wing enterprises, because you know why I'm not a fan of it? I'm not a fan of it because, now if they have an ideological shift, then that's great. Like if these left-wing Goldman Sachs firms say, you know what, we're leaving New York because of the crime, because of the vagrancy, because of the schools, because of the taxes, and we're going to Florida, and now we see the world differently. It's the opposite. These people leave these states and come to Texas with zero self-awareness as to why this state is more attractive than the hellscape that they actually voted for. So that really bothers me, and it should bother you too. Thank you.
Thank you for your show. I've been listening since 2020 and just been more active. It's really changed my life, actually. Anyways, I had a question more theological in nature. I'm part of the Bible in 365 with your wife, Erica. And the live stream Q&A with Pastor James Cadiz that you did in March, you made this statement, our thoughts don't matter. And and so I was just, had a question just because, we know Jesus was tempted without sin, but also just, I had a problem with that with Proverbs, the thought of foolishness is sin, and then also, as a man thinketh in his heart. And then Jesus in the new covenant, as we're called to a higher standard as New Testament believers, Jesus talks about you shall not commit adultery, but also if you look on a woman, it's lust after her, or whatever. Yep. So could you just expound more on what you meant by that?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. So this is, I get into a lot of heated debates, and the fact you're asking it publicly, I'll get into even more. I think that let's say the rigid interpretation of these verses have created unnecessary mental torment for a lot of Christians because they know very little about psychology. So the way psychology works, we know this, is there's something called unwanted intrusive thoughts or automatic negative thoughts. Every single person in this room has them. You're driving on the side of the street, you say, oh, what would happen if I would pull my car over to the side of the road? You can't control these. They pop up. They're weird. They're strange. The improper interpretation of those verses is somehow those ideas are part of your identity. That's rubbish. They're not. It's the thoughts that you act on and that you associate that matter. So what I'm trying to do by saying that is I'm trying to make Christians that might have, let's just say, ADHD type tendencies, that have sticky thoughts they can't get out of their head, where all of a sudden they're in these thought loops. By the way, it's millions of Christians. They're told by their pastors that those thoughts are demonic or satanic. The thoughts might be, but they actually are probably in a negative thought loop pattern. It happens to all of us, by the way, that all of a sudden they're thinking they're in a sinful pattern when it's their behavior or the thoughts they identify with that matter a lot. So let me be even more precise. If I had a thought that I thought was interesting and I wanted to do that, I wanted to all of a sudden pull my car over and run somebody over, that's not good. But if you have a thought and it's against your values and you attach to it, oh my goodness, that thought scares me, God is not holding against that you at all. And so most pastors get this totally wrong because they don't understand, first of all, that people have garbage thoughts, and we call them garbage thoughts in particular. But here's what they really don't understand, is that you have garbage, unwanted, intrusive thoughts that are sticky and remain sticky about things you care about. And that you say, what do you mean? The reason they become sticky in your mind is you think the thought is actually a threat to the thing you care about. So for example, I guarantee every Christian here has had an unwanted, intrusive thought before sitting in church being like, I could blurt something out right now. And that thought, right? Everybody laughs, right? Why? Because you consider the ceremony holy. And that thought scared you because you wouldn't want to do that. Is that thought your identity? No. It's what you do with the thought that matters. You should laugh it off, scoff at it, right? And so there's a ton of psychological literature to support this, but I can't tell you how many young people email me and they say, Charlie, my pastor says I have to really repent for these terrible, awful, negative thoughts I'm having. I don't even want to have them. Well, that pastor is misleading his flock. The better way to approach it is, what are your values? Not what are your garbage thoughts that might pop up every so often. It's what you do with those thoughts. And happy to expound on that more. There's some great books that talk about this. Dr. Amen, the whole book, Overcoming Unwanted Intrusive Thoughts. And the Christian world is ill-equipped for dealing with mental health in such a terrible, awful way. And I'm happy to build that out even more. I see this because I get hundreds of emails a week from young people. Charlie, I'm dealing with suicide. I'm dealing with depression, anxiety. My pastor just says pray and do all these different things. I'm getting no guidance. I have been so underwhelmed at how the church has no idea what they're doing largely with these topics and these ideas, because they'll cherry pick a verse with no context and understanding exactly what it is. If you have a weird or crazy thought that you don't agree with, there's nothing wrong with you. In fact, that's as normal as a weird commercial showing up on a TV screen. It's what you do with that thought that ends up mattering. Thank you. I'm going to go about 10 or 15 minutes longer. Is that okay with you guys? Okay, great.
Hi, my name is Lindsay. I go to Texas A&M, and my question is there anything that the Conservative Party is doing wrong?
Oh, yeah. I'll take all 15 minutes on that. Yeah, I mean, I do want to first celebrate what's going on. I've been in this for 11 years now. The conservative movement has changed a lot, largely for the better. We have a lot thicker skin now for when the media tries to take out one of our own. James O'Keefe would have been ostracized 11 years ago, and now he's been embraced warmly after they've tried to destroy his life. That's a good thing. I think we're now understanding the campaigns of obliteration and smear and slander. I think that's really positive. I'm not a fan of neoliberalism. Neoliberalism is three big ideas that are combined together, which is that we should invade the world, invite the world, and import unlimited amount of foreign products, and all three of those things simultaneously are good for us. There's some truth that maybe, some parts of trade can be helpful for you, but largely the unlimited free trade policies have been bad for the American worker and the American purchasing power. Our immigration policies are absolutely insane and destroying the fabric of our country. And in my personal opinion, I think it's a tragic mistake to get engaged in this Ukrainian proxy war against Russia. I would rather see that money spent on the southern border. That's my personal opinion. Not everybody agrees. Obviously, there's some agreement there. So neoliberalism, here's the problem, is neoliberalism is largely rejected by all of you, but it's largely embraced by the people you send to Washington, D.C. And we call them sometimes neocons. I prefer the term neoliberal. Neoliberalism has proven to be an ideological construct that is better for the people that already have power, wealth, and privilege, and not the people that want to try to make some power, wealth, and privilege for themselves. And I'll prove it to you, right? If you own a mega company, it is in your best interest to try to get the lowest wage labor possible, okay? I don't necessarily fault them for it, but they want relaxed immigration standards for that. It's not the best for you, though, especially even those of you that might have gone to college and you're $100,000 in debt, and now you have to go into a market to go compete against a foreigner, right, that didn't spend the $100,000. And so some people might say, oh, that's a free market. Yes, it is, but markets should point towards some good, right? And when you don't get the good you're desiring, you should have the courage to say, let's put our own graduates first because we have $100,000 in debt and we have a moral obligation to the 19-year-old American more than the 19-year-old person from India. The 19-year-old person from India is a probably a very sweet person, but our own citizen should get priority over the foreign citizen. That is the mantra of America First, right? And it is proven to be a very popular political slogan, obviously, but it's philosophically and morally correct in my opinion. So what can the conservative parties that are conservative movement do better, or what we're doing wrong? Yeah, look, here's my number one thing is I don't think we have, let me word it this way, that I still deal with far too many people, not you, that believe we're dealing with an opposition that means well. So this, if there was just one takeaway I could give, I hear it all the time. People say, Charlie, you know, we all want the same thing, we just have different ways of getting there. If you believe that lie, then I think you make 100 other bad decisions after that. You're willing to negotiate in bad peace. You're willing to do all in bad faith and all that. But if you believe they want something completely different, which is the fundamental transformation of the American Republic with no borders, a destroyed currency, you know, trans ideology everywhere, and cultural Marxism, you should be more skeptical all of a sudden wanting to dealing with them, right? And again, to defend my parents' generation, we used to live in America where both sides wanted the same thing. They had different ways to get there. That country has changed, right? It has been altered significantly. I don't delight in that, but you would never, no one in this room would ever do a business deal, get into a covenant, get into a relationship, or do a home transaction with somebody you knew that was dealing in bad faith. Someone that you have a proven track record where they're not actually trying to accomplish the same mission that you are, whether it be the purchase of a home or a marriage. You'd say, I don't trust you because you want something different than what I do. And that is the left. They want something different. And I'll prove it to you. We want a closed border. They obviously want 5,000 people coming across every single day, and they celebrate it. We believe that children should not be taught LGBT trans ideology. They believe in it, and they celebrate with it. We believe that skin color means nothing, and character means everything. They believe skin color matters. We believe in free markets and private property and low inflation. They believe in the obliteration of free markets and private property and high inflation. I could go through every single topic. These are not policy disputes. These are philosophy differences now, right? Where we view the existence of man and God and the relationship in between them. And the final one, I'll say this. Everyone in this room believes that there is a God and we are not him. Regardless of your own religion. Almost nobody on the left believes both those two things. They might believe there is a God, but I am him. Or they might believe that if there is no God, but I'm in charge of everybody. So the sooner conservatives realize we're dealing with the other side that does not share your worldview and does not want what you want, I think it'll be very liberating in more ways than one. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, my name's Emily Williams. I'm a sophomore in high school. You started TPUSA in 2012, and you were fairly young. What inspired you to do so?
It's a great question. Had great mentors that helped me, but I was motivated. And believe it or not, I thought our country was falling apart in 2012. I was like, wow, this place is falling apart. We're going to lose this great place. And imagine starting an organization now, right? Well, the Lord has blessed us significantly over the last 11 years. But I was motivated. I mean, I went to public high school in the suburbs of Chicago. It's a really sad tale. It's Wheeling High School. It was a great place to go to high school. Lots of Marxist elements, but it's way worse now. You know, but it was mostly focused on economics. Rich people are bad. You know, all the same sort of stuff. But the high school got one thing right, and I'm going to tell you how much the country has changed in 11 years. It was 53% Hispanic high school. So as a white man, I was in a minority, and no one talked about race. It was one of the most racially diverse high schools, blacks, Polish, South Africans, Vietnamese, you name it, and no one talked about race. We won football games together, we won basketball games together, we did some great things. No one cared about race. There might have been an off-color, insensitive joke here or there, and then you throw one back, and that's it. You're 17 years old. Like, who cares? The whole high school's been destroyed. CRT, white privilege walks, and I have seen the regression of a beautiful institution. Sure, it had its problems, but I never felt anti-white. I never felt anti-anything. It was about character. We had signs. They took down the signs, by the way. They had a whole statue that said character matters. They took it all down. Because it does not matter anymore. Character is not important. Skin color is important to the Marxists. So it motivated me. I thought we were losing our country, but I'll be honest, I was so naive to actually what we were up against 11 years ago. I was trying to warn audiences about overspending and, too big of government. I mean, that's a problem, but that's just one of several problems now. And so, but look, the attitude I had 11 years ago is the same attitude I have today, which is what I do matters. And I don't sit still well, and I don't sit on the sidelines. So you got to do your part. The Lord has blessed us and me in a way where we're now playing a very big part, right? But if you are saying, oh, and here, and the only part of the question I want to make sure I clarify is that sometimes people say, but Charlie, I can never make as big of a difference as you. Well, I actually don't know if that's true, because if I would have had that belief 11 years ago, when then, I don't know, Newt Gingrich was talking, well, then all of this amazing work at Turning Point would not exist, right? Yes, we are the rarity. Yes, we are the exception. Yes, but it was a lot of work, a lot of blessing, a lot of grit, but also a commitment that what I do matters. I hope everybody, leaves with that attitude, that my own individual action is incredibly important to the saving of Western civilization. Thank you.
Hey, Charlie, my name's Howard Barker, and I'm with the Harris County Republican Party and
God
the
bless
Republican
you.
Party of Texas. I really want to thank you for what you're doing here to help us out in Texas. I also want to let you know that we have a formal program to try to promote and support conservative clubs on high school campuses like you're doing, and we're available to do that. I wanted to try to pick up on an earlier question that asked, what specifically can we do to change things, to help things? And they asked for 4 or 5 things, and I think the first thing we can do is to join a Republican group. Get current information on a regular basis. There are lots of clubs that meet weekly and monthly. You can do that. Find your precinct chair. They need a lot of help. There are a lot of things they don't do because they don't.
Or become one.
Yeah. Well, that's right. When they try to find a precinct chair, they may find there is none. There are a lot of unregistered voters, and there are a lot of voters who don't vote. Get out there, have the difficult conversations, and find some unregistered voters. And finally, try to encourage those discouraged voters who are opting out of the system. I mean, they're so frustrated they don't want to vote. They're afraid their vote's going to be stolen. Let's change those minds, because we can't lose our base that we have right now. We have to grow it.
God bless you. It's a great list. Thank you for your leadership.
Yes, my question is, decades of coups and corruption around the world, our politicians put us in the wrong side of history. All the traumas created by drugs, alcohol abuse, and peer pressure got us into a timeline of lies and illusions. Damaged, lost souls are driving our country with the iron fist. It's not many cheeks we can turn. It's not time to be silent. The secrets of the universe has been known. We will win in truth. How are we going to address the cartels feeding our government? We are a trade road in Houston. What can we do, and what can I do about that?
It's a great question. Thank you. So look, there's 87,000 kids that we know of that have gone missing in the last 90 days in the interior of the United States. And I have to be lectured by the left that America had slaves 200 years ago. Yeah, we have slaves now that you guys are facilitating on the United States southern border. Mayorkas wants it, Biden wants it, Kamala Harris wants it. They're enthusiastic supporters of the new, forget the Atlantic slave trade. We now have the Southern Triangle slave trade that is coming through America. 87,000 kids that are in sex trades, prostitutes, working in factories right now. Look, what you can do, and you guys, I don't understand the excuse why Greg Abbott has not put a middle finger to Joe Biden and has militarized the Texas National Guard, had 100,000 people with tanks. You have tanks, build them. Tell the federal government they're no longer a sovereign, secure the border. I've been saying that, for those of you that follow my podcast, I've been saying this for a long time, and we always get excuses. Here's people say, well, Charlie, when will you be happy? When it is 0 people a day crossing through the Rio Grande sector. Why is the governor of Texas not doing that? And I'll be honest, it's just, he's a wuss. He's a nice wuss. He's a pleasant wuss. He's not a liberal wuss, but he's a wuss. And you guys are being invaded, and kids are being sex trafficked. He is overseeing the greatest slave trade in modern America. There is no other. You might say, well, Charlie, what would you do if you were governor? It's not that hard. You mobilize a citizen army and deputize them Give them weapons and training for 3 weeks. You make the entire National Guard to the southern border. If Joe Biden tries to reclaim the National Guard, say, no, we're a sovereign state. We control our own borders. You're being invaded every day by the cartels. This could be fixed in a month, but we do not have political leaders that want to fix it. Thank you so much.
Hey, Charlie. I've been listening to you for like maybe 2 years now. I love your podcast, but I come from Collin College in North Texas, and I made the mistake of dropping out maybe a month ago, and because I decided to take teachers that I didn't know would be leftist, and my mom had a huge sheet of teachers that she suggested I take. I just decided to not listen to that, and well, like some of the classes we had to do, we like on the first week we had to talk about our political affiliation in front of the class, and I thought it would be fine until after I spoke that I was a conservative and I didn't like believe in all the like leftist pushing that schools are teaching today. I would not be taken seriously ever again in that class, in any of my classes, and so I decided to drop out. And like there are a lot of conservative kids at Collin College that they just can't speak out because they don't want to be targeted by the majority of the leftist students there, and there are a huge majority there that are very violent, and they like if you say something that they don't agree with, they will assault you because it has happened there before.
That's what they do.
So I will be going back in the fall to the technical campus, and I will be a Collin student again. The first thing I want to do there is start a Turning Point chapter there.
I love it.
Because
Let's do it.
People there need to be represented, and it's just not fair that these students are being shut down because there's nothing you can say. If you say anything that's different than what the teachers push, you'll be shut down and you'll be told to leave the classroom.
Sure.
So that's why I want to start a Turning Point chapter there to represent
Love
the
it.
students who can't voice themselves.
So here, let me just give you, I love it. We're going to support you, but let me kind of challenge you for one thing. Become so good that you can win over your classmates. And you might say, well, Charlie, what does that take? 20,000 hours of study. Get started. Listen to my podcast, listen to Matt Walsh, listen to Milton Friedman, read Thomas Sowell books, take the Hillsdale online courses. Within a couple hundred hours of study, you're going to become really sharp. And then all of a sudden, you're going to know the right questions to ask, and that's the other thing. Never tell a left-winger, a liberal, or independent what you believe. Ask them what they believe, and use the questions as a guide towards truth. Why do you believe that? Does that work? Well, then what's your definition of truth? So make it a challenge as you return to class this fall to be 20,000 hours is not physically possible before the fall, but you get to 2,000. I think so. Now, get to 200. But it's the 20,000 hour rule. People say, Charlie, how do you get so good at this? I've been doing this for 11 years, right? I've given 4,000 speeches. I've done 2,000 radio broadcasts, right? 1,500 television interviews, not to mention the study in between. You do that, you start to master a subject, right? Then you start to see patterns and you can predict things ahead. So become so convincing you can win those people over that think they hate you.
Yeah, thank you.
We got your back. Thank you for starting the chapter. God bless you, okay? We'll do 2 more. These will be the last 2.
You're holding or like, okay. Hi, my name is Mariano, and I am from Texas' favorite country, Mexico. But yeah, no, first of all, I want to say thank you because you have really been an inspiration, and you really speak the truth. And I think that's important because we are living in very difficult times, as the other speakers have said. Like, there's evil forces out there trying to battle humanity and end up all the good that we have. And I feel that it is important for me to represent because as a Mexican gay immigrant that lived 5 years in San Francisco, and I used to think of myself as a liberal person, I can really say that they are even though I do think that most Democrat people are good people, I do think that they don't know anymore what they are defending. And because let's just say they say that grooming children and telling them that changing their gender is correct and then mutilating their body is correct. That is not correct, and that is not the solution. So that's where I draw my line. As a gay person, as an adult, you can do whatever. But anyway, this is a long discussion, I know. My question goes more related to, in the last 2 years, we have seen a lot of news and mainstream media trying to censor the truth in many, many, many fields. medical professionals and people in all areas. And if you don't go along with the narrative that they want to do, they are going to censor us. But that, if I understand correctly what I understand of this country, goes against the amendments, right? So
Yeah.
why haven't we really been able to protect our rights? And why haven't been able to stop the authorities when they are not
great
following the rules?
So, a great question, and God bless you, and thank you for being here. So, and I would hope to agree that 90% of the country could believe grooming of children is wrong. I hope you're right. So, really quick. So, yes, the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion or freedom of speech or freedom of assembly. However, if you're a private company, that doesn't apply to you. Where it gets tricky, though, and what we need to then emphasize, why did the federal government then, why were they allowed to then shut us up? That's illegal. Remember, the Constitution are not rules for us. The Constitution are rules for the government. It's completely different. It's the first form of government ever where they decide to restrain government before they ever do a law for the people. It's a pretty remarkable thing, right? The Bill of Rights is a Bill of Rights reasserting God-given natural rights for you for what the government can't do. So, for example, you might say, oh, Charlie, that's an exaggeration. No, it's not. When the Federal Bureau of Investigation actively went to Twitter and met on a weekly basis to shut up my Twitter account, that's against the law. That's the government breaking the law. And that needs to be exploited in the courts, and people need to go to jail for a very, very long time for what they did. Because the government is not allowed to shut you up. They're not allowed to shut you up through proxy or through ally or through a wink and a nod or through an affiliate. They cannot do that. And so, but this leads to a broader point. They need to censor us, though. Censorship is a key ingredient in the formula for the totalitarian takeover. This is why you might love him or hate him or think, I have a very, I think, nuanced view where I find things objectionable about him, but also interesting and important. Elon Musk buying Twitter is without a doubt a glitch in their censorship matrix. It is. And Rumble being on the scene and being a YouTube competitor is a very good thing. They need to be able to stop dissident ideas. They call dissident ideas disinformation, when in reality it's information they don't like. It's ideas that don't fit their narrative. It is, I believe, a crime against humanity that we for years were not able to have a robust discussion online about early treatments for the Chinese coronavirus. We weren't allowed to talk about it. Is ivermectin, I don't know, does it work? Vitamin D levels, any sort of correlation, right? IV therapy, baby aspirin, are there any sort of cross-blind clinical trials? You were not able to mention that on social media. I wasn't. I had my social media obliterated because I tweeted out, wow, this is interesting. Looks like there might be a cocktail of drugs, which actually ended up being the case. And now I have to watch March Madness or football. What do I see nonstop? Paxlovid, brought to you by Pfizer as an early treatment. Oh, now we can talk about treatments after you made your billions of dollars mandating the vaccine that doesn't work and isn't safe and is not effective. Now you guys can do early treatment saves lives. I mean, this is criminal, evil, diabolical type behavior that this regime has engaged in. But the censorship thing drives me nuts. But the censorship of the 2020 election, the censorship of Hunter Biden's laptop, right? We were not allowed to talk about Hunter Biden's laptop for a whole month leading up until, you might say, Charlie, what do you mean not allowed to? I lost access to my Twitter account because I mentioned the Hunter Biden laptop. I could not get into my Twitter account for 2 weeks because they said I was a spreader of disinformation. They said, it's not true that Hunter Biden left the laptop in Delaware. This is Russian disinformation. And they did that in the critical, and then as soon as the election ended, everyone's like, oh, okay, it's over. We got what we wanted. And so how do we fight against it? I have a lot of ideas. I talk about it on my show. I certainly don't have time here, but I would love to see some Republican attorneys general to start use handcuffs and subpoenas and perp walks for these criminals that have abused their power. God bless you. This will be the last question. Thank you.
If I can say,
Sorry, we just got to get to the last one. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Hannah Gibson, and I go to Bradford College, and thankfully I was homeschooled. Praise the Lord. So it was quite a culture shock going to community college. In my first semester, I'm a theater major, and my theater class is showing all be clean and say drag shows and saying this can be your job. And showing my sociology class will show picture of a nude man and saying this is the culture of this tribe. And I have a classmate who has a professor who has weed growing in their classroom. How do we stop these crazy liberal professors?
I mean, look, I'm going to keep on saying the same thing. You guys have a wuss as a governor. These schools should be defunded a long time ago. Why are they receiving? I don't understand. Like, make the argument for me, okay? You are actively allowing the bacteria of liberalism to take over your state. Use some antibiotics, right? Which is called courage. Courage is the great antibiotic. No, you're not allowed to grow weed in a classroom. Go do something else, freak. Like, seriously, it's just weird, okay? I mean, it might work in Austin, I guess. And, I mean, people might say, well, Charlie, isn't that, too heavy-handed? I'm sick of losing beautiful places in America, and I'm sick of losing Texas and Georgia and Arizona, because they are the ones that are allowed to be forceful, and they're the ones that are allowed to push this ideology. Now, you mentioned something very interesting. I used to make fun of theater majors, no offense, of that you'll never be able to find jobs. With the new drag queen thing, I actually think the left is going to have a lot of jobs for theater majors now. If my language is too forceful, hopefully I woke you up, because it's the country you're living in. And we need grassroots people to rise up and to do something. So let's just recap what you can do. If you're a student and you're not yet running a Turning Point chapter, please do that and start a Turning Point chapter, high school chapter or college chapter. If you are a parent, I implore you that if you can, to take your kid out of government school. I'm not telling you what to do, but if you send your kid to government school, you're playing Russian roulette with their values. We're not going to send our daughter to government school. If you have to send your kid to government school, then you got to be a 24/7 operation, overseeing curriculum, running for school board, and that's fine. We need all fronts. We need to occupy all lanes. And then finally, I want to just reinforce the spiritual disciplines, right? You need to pray for your nation on a regular basis. You need to fast for your nation on a regular basis. And then finally, you need to learn about your nation on a regular basis. We, I think, do a pretty good job on our podcast. I'll put up a QR code if you guys want to listen to it. We do 3 podcasts a day. There's other great podcasts, too, you guys can listen to that you could, but that which you do not understand, you cannot save, okay? And the key, I think, one of the keys to saving America, to turning around this country, is going to be millions of people that do not know each other, but believe that there's other people that are doing the same thing as them, that are doing dutiful action every single day, doing the hard work, the long work. I get asked often, they say, well, Charlie, the country is falling apart. What is the point? And I say that attitude is exactly why we're in the mess that we are in. Martin Luther famously said that even if the world was ending today, I would still plant an apple tree. Even if you believe the country is falling apart, which is past the point of salvation, which I don't believe it is, you would still do the thing that will help the next generation be able to thrive and succeed. To end on a spiritual note, many of you, believe in a God that loves you, but also a God that expects something from you. As an act of worship to that God, I implore you that to read the scriptures correctly, that God cares whether or not you fight for the community around you. Liberty is not man's idea, it's God's idea. God has intervened time and time again in this nation. The question is, are we going to step up with courage and boldness? What do you want to be caught doing when Jesus comes again? It's a good question, right? And if it's just kind of be sitting around and running to the hills, then so be it. We have a beautiful nation. It's the greatest nation ever to exist in the history of the world. The Constitution's the greatest political document ever written. Am I a pessimist and am I an optimist? It depends wholly on your actions. Some of you probably say, Charlie, I've done everything that's been asked of me. I watched Tucker Carlson on Fox News. I bought the pillow. I've done everything that has been asked of me. By the way, promo code Kirk at mypillow.com, just so we're clear. Every day. It's a long slog. It's the little work that matters. And together, we will have a fighting shot. I do not come with easy answers. I do not come with a guarantee of temporal victory. Here's what I can guarantee, though, is that we haven't lost. And that victory is possible if we rededicate ourselves to it. God bless you guys, and thank you for supporting Turning Point USA. Thank you.